It was 2 a.m. and I woke up in a state of sheer fear. My chest was constricted and I remember thinking I was having a heart attack. My chest felt so tight and I remember thinking I should have paid more attention to those signs of a heart attack or stroke. I seriously thought I was having one. My entire body was covered in sweat and I was really scared. I do what any good wife does. I woke my husband up from his sound sleep and I shared with him what was happening. And he asked me a few questions and he said, I think you're okay. I started to feel better and I was finally able to go back to sleep. The next day I reached out to my doctor and interestingly, she shared that she had recently had several patients with the same signs as mine and they turned out to just be an anxiety or a panic attack. I had never had one. It was 8 years ago, and it was funny because my best friend had one at the exact same time. It's really interesting. And, there's just a lot of uncertainty going on in the world, in politics, in the economy, and it just manifested in an anxiety attack. I've only had one in my life, but I will tell you one was enough, and it was a wake-up call. About 6 months ago, I started feeling a lot of overwhelm and anxiety. And I think because of what I do, and I'm getting bombarded by so many people and so many things, everyone's fear comes out probably before an election. And then depending who gets elected after an election, right? The election, the commercials, all your clients, everyone got their feedback and everyone's in some state of fear. It's just amazing. It can be overwhelming. And at that time, 6 months ago, all the emotions were in full force. Many people that I'm around, including my clients, were very nervous. But this time, I literally took immediate action. In addition to my normal daily routine and many of the things I'm going to share with you today, I incorporated a deeper meditation practice, and it has literally been a game changer.
Hi, I'm Annette Ba'u, host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast and founder of the Millionaire Insider. My mission is to help you simplify the money game so you can create a financially secure and fulfilled life without having to have a PhD or spend countless hours on your finances. You're going to learn how to think like a millionaire, stop worrying about money and wondering if your financial house is truly in order, and instead spend your time doing what you love. With over 3 decades advising 7, 8, and even 9-figure millionaires, and now joining that elite group, I'm in a unique position to help you make the best financial choices so you can create a secure financial future and retirement you love. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast.
Today's free resource is our financial freedom formula. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/FFG. This resource is literally everything that I have learned over the last 3 decades on how to create a secure financial future. And it dives into 3 steps that make up the formula. The reason this will be helpful for you is that it kind of follows what you need to do to manage stress, to create your plan. You've got to have your foundation or your inner game. You've got to have your game plan, which is your strategy. And then you got to have your execution, which is your outer game. So it's going to mirror kind of what I'm going to teach you today from a standpoint of what you need to do to manage stress or really anything else in your life. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/98. Millionaireseries.com copyrights all intellectual property. This information is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to replace any advisor or specialist or to provide any investment, financial, tax, retirement, planning, or healthcare advice. If you have a mental health issue, meaning depression, any suicidal thoughts, extreme fear, you can't sleep, anything like that, you got to get professional help. Get off of this and go dial 911. Nothing is worth committing suicide over or living in a state of depression or fear. If you need help, get it. It's the most important thing you can do. Let's dive in. So the first thing I want to dive into is understanding stress and its impact. We know life is full of uncertainties and it can be constant and exhaustive, from economic downturns to uncertainties in the marketplace. What are economists right now predicting? We're going to go into either a recession or even possibly a depression. And I find it fascinating that all these money managers are like, everything's great. I'm like, Okay, so money managers are saying it's great. Economists are saying it's not. What's going on here? I do know a lot of people are being a lot more conservative, and a lot of people are very concerned. Add to that just the stress of what's going on in people's personal lives. People are losing jobs. People are, concerned about what's happening economically, what's happening in their communities. And, you really can't turn on the TV without getting some information that is stressful. And what I find fascinating, like yesterday, I'll use an example. Now, I have a wide range of clients, some very conservative, some very liberal. And I kid you not, like I got done yesterday and I felt mentally exhausted. I feel like I'm living like a 3D reality. I'm over here living in this matrix and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then I get back to what I think is normal. And then I get talking to somebody else and I'm over in this one. And it's just fascinating to listen to it. But it's also stressful because I think when you start listening to what people are saying, and especially if they're only being fed what they want to hear and not a bigger picture of things, it can be really concerning. And I think it really requires a lot of us to really stay grounded so that we are not impacted by all the stuff that's going on out there. In the last 2 weeks, it appears that our financial information likely was compromised at the Treasury. And so now, hopefully everyone is getting all of that taken care of, getting their accounts frozen, making sure that they have protections in place, because these are things that, you don't want to just ignore them, because if they are true, it could be devastating. So again, you just got to be aware of that. The bottom line is that all of this impacts our nervous system, both our physical and our mental health. It often results in a feeling of overwhelm and for many, even fear. While we can't always control external circumstances, we can control how we respond. Now, I'm not talking about ignoring what's going on, but I am saying that focused more in on how you choose to respond or how much information you take in is important. And I think there's a balancing act between knowing what's going on and to just completely ignoring it. What I find that I like to do is I'm getting downloads on financial information all the time. Now, probably more than ever, a lot of that ends up being tied to politics, which I personally would like to get as far away from it as I can, but you can't. That said, what I typically will do is I'll go and I'll look at like news of the day and I just scroll down. And if there's something that I think is going to impact my clients or the economy, then I'll look deeper. And a lot of it does, but I think we have to make conscious decisions so that we're not bombarded and we're not overwhelmed. I think that's a huge part of it. During times of uncertainty, it's really important that we work to manage stress. And it's important because it helps us maintain our balance as well as our resilience, our optimistic outlook, all of those things. Ways stress can manifest. So one of the most common is anxiety or worry, irritability, fatigue, headaches, digestive issues, depression. There are so many. Stress is a natural response to challenges and pressures, but when left unmanaged, it can take a toll on our well-being. And it's so critical that we manage it. When it manifests in one of these ways, it can cause long-term problems. You say, oh, I just feel down today is one thing, but having chronic depression is another. And I can honestly say with people I've spoken with, I think there's a lot of people that really could benefit from getting some mental health support. And I think those of us that are working with a lot of clients that have a lot of different views, that can also be important. Long-term stress can contribute to chronic conditions, including heart disease and even severe depression. So it's something you don't want to just ignore. But recognizing it, first of all, and then understanding the impact of it is the first step to proactively addressing it. So let's look at 3 steps to help you really get in the driver's seat so you're not being debilitated by stress. Number 1, you want to assess your stress. When do you feel stressed? Is it 24/7, like all the time? Or is it when you're at work or when you're at home or both? When you awake in the middle of the night, is that when you go over the stress or what's happening? I know for me last week, after I found out about the hacker that was at the Treasury. And I had literally found out about it on Friday, and it did not hit mainstream media until Monday. A judge didn't do anything about it until like Tuesday. And then finally, 7 days afterwards, it was a Saturday. It was actually 7.5 days. A judge ordered a cease and desist to where they could only have read access and they had to destroy whatever they had downloaded. And I literally woke up and I just felt like, oh my gosh, like, oh my God, what am I going to do for my clients? I had actually woke up before the judge did that. I was just going through the thought process. What do I need to do? So right away, we got a plan together to really help our clients. I'll be sharing more insight on some things you can do in upcoming episodes. So just stay tuned on that. One of the things that in all of this that I just continue to reiterate that's so fascinating to me is how millionaires and multimillionaires see this and are handling it as compared to how other people are. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't multimillionaires that are handling it from, one perspective or the other. Clearly they are. But I find it fascinating when I look at my clients and I look at some of the ones that are wealthier and how they're handling it and the questions they're asking as compared to people who maybe are just caught up on wanting something to be true versus really taking the time to find out what is true. I'd say that's the biggest difference, is that people who are really successful, not just with money, but with their overall lives, are asking questions. They always do. They want to know information. They don't need every detail, but they want to know enough of the facts so they can make a decision. When you wake up, say in the middle of the night, what are you worrying about? What are you thinking about? Or do you find that you have more stress in the morning when you wake up? Or maybe it's when you're trying to get to sleep at night and then all those ideas come to you. What I encourage you to do, if things that you have to do just come to you, just have a little notepad and write them down. That's what I do. And then you can forget about them, go back to sleep. If it's truly stress and you're freaking out about what's going on, then you got to start looking at it. Having occasional stress is very different than having 24/7 stress. If you're overworked or overcommitted, start tracking your schedule and then start determining what you can eliminate. Now that I am back in the realm of advising clients, meaning taking on new advisory clients, I am really nailing down what I'm getting rid of. Complete cleanse. You've got it. You can't do everything. All right, you got to determine the cause. Constant exposure to distressing news and social media can amplify anxiety and is one of the main causes of it. While staying informed is important, setting boundaries around news consumption helps prevent unnecessary stress. It can also benefit to identify and distance yourself from toxic relationships and environments that contribute to emotional turmoil, that don't help you get and stay on track. So you got to determine the cause. Are you worrying about your to-do list, or are you watching news 24/7, especially one of the three major networks? Constant exposure to distressing news or social media is one of the most common methods to amplifying stress and anxiety. So do yourself a favor and limit it. They're designed to get you stressed out. And right now, with everything that's going on, there are a lot of people stressed out. What can you let go of? When the uncertainty is present, prioritizing tasks and to-dos and responsibilities can go a long way in preventing overwhelm. Take those large tasks and break them down into manageable tasks. Setting realistic goals and learning to say no to unnecessary commitments can also ease stress levels. Planning ahead, even in uncertain times, provides us all a sense of control, which can give us hope and can get us back on track to where we're thinking with our primal brain. Because what I realized the other day when I was talking to clients that were on both extremes, it was both of them were coming from their primal fear center. I'm sure that there's some truth in both of what they were saying. I mean, some of the things they both were saying, I'm like, I think that's true. I think that's true. But some of the stuff was extreme. Now, is it true? I mean, it's yet to be seen, right? We'll know that probably in the not too distant future. But the point being is that when we come from fear versus common sense, our prefrontal cortex, nothing good comes from it because we're making decisions based on emotions, based on the fear that we might get eaten by a tiger. So you've got to be really aware of that. Nothing good comes from that. Instead of watching 24/7 news, How about starting to do some yoga or meditation or maybe even positive prayer or chants? All of those things can be really powerful to get you into a more Zen place, a more calm place where you're in a position to see reality, maybe even hear information that you don't want to hear. One of the biggest challenges I see is that people get so caught up in what they want to believe to be true versus what is. And that's especially hard when you're working with a client like that, because as a financial advisor, your job is to do the best you can for them and for them to ideally have a touch of reality. And sometimes when people start believing conspiracy theories and things that are just way, way out there, I mean, who knows, maybe some of those will come to fruition. But the point is they end up making fear-based decisions versus the best decision based on what's happening now. And so again, it's just something to be aware of. And I think it's something that is impacting our entire society much more than it ever has. All right, number 2, you got to create your plan. So let's dive into some anxiety and stress reduction techniques that are going to help you calm your mind and reduce anxiety. These techniques help bring awareness to the present moment, preventing overwhelming thoughts about uncertainty and the future. So one is practicing mindfulness. This is just being present in what you're doing. Meditating can be really powerful. There's both silent as well as guided. I like silent meditation. I also like focused breathing. I think those are primary strategies that really help you calm your nervous system down, get into that parasympathetic, calm down the sympathetic, and allow you to really be at your best. Yoga is another great option. Stretching is really good, and dynamic stretching can also help. Tapping can help. On the top of your head, above your eyebrows, right below your eyes, on your temples, on your upper lip, on your chin, on your chest, on your collarbone, on your ribs, in your diaphragm, your wrists. All of those are so powerful. You got to make healthy food choices. Find out what works with you. Some examples are eating a higher protein diet. We know that higher protein actually can calm us down. It actually calms us from having those glucose fluctuations. I encourage you to eliminate sugar and even reduce carbs, but preservatives, anything that's not really good for us, caffeine, too much caffeine, alcohol, healthy fats. You want to avoid saturated fats and focus more in on chia seeds, basil seeds, different types of nuts like walnuts, pistachio nuts, pecans are great options. Even almonds can be. You got to be careful with coconut oil because there's some controversy because it does harden in your arteries. MCT oil is a great option because it's derived from coconut, but it does not harden in your arteries. So that can be a really good option. Olive oil obviously is good. Avocados. There are a variety of ways to get healthy fats. Maintaining a diet with adequate hydration supports brain function and stabilizes moods. Sleep is equally important. It establishes a consistent sleep routine, helps the body recover and process emotions more effectively. Eating healthy fiber with vegetables and fruits is also a great option. And cutting out carbs, I think, is really important because so much of that is sugar. I just met a woman in California, and it was funny because I'm like, do any of these not have sugar? Because I do no sugar and then low carbs. She said she has literally no sugar. She can only have 30 carbs a day. So she's staying in ketosis all the time. She's went from full-on diabetic to insulin to none. I was like, wow, that's impressive. And she said she's lost like 50 pounds. So it's really amazing what can happen by eliminating sugar, reducing carbs, but eating healthy. Sugar is a big one, but carbs are too. And, just getting rid of all the things that are not really good in your system. All right. You want to create a workout routine. Regular exercise is critical, not only mental exercise, but physical. I recommend you try for 10,000 steps a day. Stretching and yoga is so powerful. Even simple exercises like walking or stretching releases endorphins. They're natural mood boosters that combat stress. So they're good. And then I encourage you to weight train 3 times a week. It's so important. Our thoughts play a significant role in how we experience stress. Learning to recognize and challenge negative thinking patterns can shift our mindset from helplessness to empowerment. Keeping a journal to process emotions can also be really powerful, as can talking to a trusted friend or even getting professional help. All of those things can really help you manage your stress. Now, I want to reiterate, and I really want to make a comment on this, is that if you are suffering from depression, you've got to get support from a professional. If it's just like a one-off, like, oh my God, I'm freaking out because you're worried about something that's happening in the economy or in politics, that's one thing. If it's chronic, I strongly encourage you to get the professional help you need so that you can not only survive, but really thrive. So you can be the calm in the storm. I think coming up, we're going to need that more than ever. And I also think I'm very stressed about what's happening. I'm stressed on two fronts. I'm stressed on the front that I just think what's right and what's wrong. And I think that we need to take care of people in our society that really can't take care of themselves. I think the people that can work should be working. So I'm all on board there, but I don't know. I don't know how you figure that out, but there is those two layers. So I think that's the first issue. And then I think the second issue is I'm just going to continue to do my part, and I'm going to continue and take money that I've earned and help people that really need it. People that need that extra boost to get back on track and to really help make their life different. And so I feel a lot better about that than worrying about, oh my gosh, they're not going to have aid, they're not going to have support. All right, I'm going to do what I can to help. And I encourage you to do that too. Then you're focusing on something positive. You're going down a very different path than you are when all you're doing is focusing in on what's wrong. It's like, what can I do to help make this right? All right, number 3, build a support system. Social connections are vital during challenging times. You want to stay connected with family, friends, or support groups because they can provide emotional reassurance as well as practical guidance. Whether through phone calls, online communities, or in-person interactions, surrounding yourself with positive influences can make such a difference. And I have connections with people both on Zoom, where some of my friends I meet regularly on Zoom, and then other ones I meet in person. But one of my friends I've got good friends in Florida, in Minnesota, California. I've got peers of mine that I stay in regular touch with in New Mexico and the Midwest and Virginia, all over. And you can do it now. Now it's like nothing. So you got to do it. But that is so powerful. And then I want you to have a plan to create long-term stability. That is so critical. You got to learn how to embrace uncertainty and even be excited about it. Like, what can I do to make a difference here? What can I do to have an impact? You want to be developing resilience to stressors. You want to become adaptable, and you want to foster gratitude and cultivate an inner strength. I'm not saying it happens overnight, but I am saying it's possible. Managing stress is not just about immediate relief, but it's about building resilience, taking the uncertainty that we're faced with, that's going to be in life no matter what, and then developing an ability to adapt to it and get used to it so that you can handle what comes your way and that you can also protect yourself regardless of what comes your way. Engaging in problem solving, fostering gratitude, and maintaining a growth-oriented mindset helps cultivate inner strength and long-term stability. My friends, you can do this. If I can do it, you can do it. So I want to thank you so much for joining me for managing stress and anxiety in uncertain times. Let's recap. You got to assess your stress. Is it long-term, chronic, or is it short-term? If it's short-term, fine. A lot of the techniques that I'm going to share with you are going to work. If it is long-term or it's chronic or it's severe depression, you got to get professional help right away. Don't waste your time. Go online and type in like suicide hotline or mental health hotline or mental health support, and you'll be able to find support. If you have to, call 911, but get the support you need. That's so important. Number 2 is creating a plan. The funny thing about it is when we have a plan, we can take action and do something about it. I was getting into a complete state of inertia, and I think I was because I have a lot of clients who are very educated. They're very smart. They don't just take what you hear. You got to have the facts. And so I think I been paying a lot more attention to what's going on than normally I would. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention. I obviously do from a financial standpoint, but not as much from a political. And when I am just start getting bombarded with all this stuff from clients, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. And what I had to do is I had to get back into the driver's seat, into my prefrontal cortex, and really get focused in on what can I do to help contribute instead of just worrying about what ifs or worrying about people that how these things are going to impact women, how they're going to impact people that don't have a lot of money, things that do concern me. And I think it's concern, first of all, because of what's right, but it's also a concern because I think if you don't allow a society to have middle class and you don't allow people that, say, for instance, don't have money to get into that next bracket of wealth to have a better future, that's what a revolution is made of. So I just think that we've got to have a plan. We've got to be taking action so that we can stay out of that state of inertia where you're just like, oh my God, what do I do? This is terrifying. Number 3, build a support system. One thing I love about my support system is that I have people that have a lot of different views on a lot of different topics. And some of them I don't agree with. And some of them I do. But what's funny is that the vast majority of them, even the ones that we are pretty far apart on how we see things, a lot of things we have in common. I think part of it is I enjoy being in a dialogue with somebody who has different beliefs with me, as long as we're talking about facts. When people start, saying, oh, this or that, and it's like they have nothing to back it up, then I'm like, no, I'm not going to get into that discussion. I want it to be based on facts. And if you have facts to bring to the table, I think that's great. And I think some people do and some people don't. Some people don't do the research. And so then maybe they just believe whatever they hear on TV. And what I find, I like listening. When I listen to TV, I'm really listening for, do they have a sound bite? Do they have a video that I can see or hear it? And then if I want more information or context around it, I go research it and watch the whole thing. But what I find a lot of people do is they hear one number or one thing and they don't back it up. They don't have information. And so that's hard to swallow. Having a good support system, what you can go to, is absolutely critical. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. And more importantly, I really hope it helps you to, first of all, determine, is your stress just a temporary, short-term issue, or is it really a long-term issue that you really do need professional help from? If it is long-term and you need support, get it. Go search online for suicide hotline, mental health hotline, call 911, whatever you need to do to get the support you need. I've had a therapist on and off my entire adult life, and it's the best decision I ever made. So I really encourage you to go and to look at this and really dive into figuring out what you need so that you don't get into a state of it's minor, but then it becomes major. And after having that one anxiety attack, I'm like, I'm not taking any chances. That said, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm doing the practices. I do the morning walk. I do 30 minutes of restorative yin yoga every morning, and I do 15 minutes of Kundalini, and it is a game changer. It's changed my life. I do meditation. I do focused breathing. I do positive prayer. I walk for a mile, and then I start my day, and I eat super healthy. And then I lift weights 3 times a week. I get 10,000 plus steps a day, and I do yoga in a class 1 to 3 times a week. And so that's kind of my routine. And then I just really am now just being really aware that I'm being really careful about social media and about news, because I think it can drive us crazy if we allow it to. I hope that's helpful, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, if you need mental health support, please get off of this and go dial 911. Nothing is worth committing suicide over or living in a state of depression or fear. If you need help, get it. It's the most important thing you can do.
If you love the content of this podcast, please follow and subscribe to our channel so you get notified of episodes, and also give us a 5-star review and share a comment. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on taking another step to create a financially free life you love. If you're not sure about your financial future or that it's in order, or you are ready to stop worrying about money, or possibly the fear of becoming a bag lady, ending up broke in retirement, or you simply are ready to know your financial house is in order so you can have a bright financial future, please go to themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. And that doesn't stand for non-sufficient funds. It stands for next step finance. It's the next best step of what you need to do so you can avoid an NSF notice in your future. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. The number of women who were not broke or poor while working or married is staggering. The entire mission of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast is to ensure you have the information for you, your family, your friends, anyone who's willing to listen to it and apply it so that you can create a financially free life you love. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. Until our next episode, take one action that will help you create a financially free life you love. I'm Annette Ba'u, your host. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.